Hello class, this is Dr. Lee. We're now going to go into MBC 101, Unit 2. In this presentation, we will learn about anatomy, part 1. Specifically, we will talk about the body structure, the color, and oncology. The objectives of this presentation is to identify anatomic structures of the human body. We will define and spell the word parts. We will build and analyze medical terms using word parts, define, pronounce, and spell medical terms related to body structure, color, and oncology, interpret the meanings of the abbreviations, and read medical documents and interpret medical terminology contained in them. So the way that the human body is organized is first with the cell. That's the basic unit of life. Then you have the tissue, which is similar to cells in that they perform specific tasks. You have organs, where you have two or more kinds of tissue that together perform special body functions. And lastly, you have systems, which is a group of organs that work together to perform a complex body function. So here, for example, are different systems in the body. So we have the integumentary system, which is your skin. Beneath that, you have the muscular system, which is made up of all of your muscles in your body. Under that, you have the endocrine system, which regulates your different hormones in your body. Then on the top right, you have the skeletal system. Obviously, that supports your body and protects your organs. Then you have the nervous system. That is very important in providing information to the entire body on what to do. And then on the bottom, you have the cardiovascular system, which obviously brings your blood and oxygen throughout your whole body and picks up waste to excrete. So let's talk about the cell. So the human body is composed of trillions of cells of various sizes and shapes. The cell membrane is the boundary of the cell, so pretty much it's like the protector of the cell. Then you have a cytoplasm, and that makes up the body of the cell. And lastly, you have the nucleus, which is the structure in the center that contains the chromosomes that gives the information of what that cell is supposed to do. So here you can see that a little bit clearer. So you have the cytoplasm, which is the cell wall, then you have the cell membrane, then you have the ribosomes in the middle of that, you have your nucleus right in the center. We didn't talk a little bit more, we didn't talk much about the mitochondria, but they're fascinating. So, and then if you want your cell to move, you have the flagellum, which kind of gives it little rotor, if you will. So let's talk about the types of tissue. So there's muscle tissue, which produces movement, nervous tissue, which conducts impulses to and from the brain, connective tissue, which connects, supports, penetrates, and encases various body structures. And you have epithelial tissue, which is found in the skin and lining of the blood vessels. So again, here are the four types. You have connective, top left hand side. Underneath that, you have muscle tissue. Top right, you have epithelial tissue. And then on the bottom, you have the nervous tissue. So let's look at again on how the human body is organized. So you have, the human body has 46 chromosomes, okay, except for the mature sex cell, which only has 23. And then you also have different regions, okay? The genes have regions within the chromosomes, and that determines hereditary characteristics. The DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, is composed, each gene is composed of DNA, and that is the chemical that regulates the activities of each of the cells. Now we also have different body cavities, so we can definitely, when we look at a body, we can identify them by cavities. So you have at the top, you have the cranial cavity, which is your brain. Then you have the spinal cavity that encloses your spinal cord. Thoracic cavity, you hear the word thoracic, you know they're talking about the lungs, the heart, the esophagus, the trachea, the bronchi. Then you have the abdominal cavity, which is your stomach, your intestines, kidneys, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, spleen, and the ureters. And then you also have your pelvic cavity, which contains your urinary bladder, certain reproductive organs, part of your large intestine, and your rectum. So again, here's a good graphic that shows the different cavities, okay? Again, you have the cranial cavity at the top, then you have the spinal cavity or dorsal cavity, the vertebral cavity, the thoracic cavity in the front, the abdominal cavity right underneath that, and the pelvic cavity. Now let's talk a little bit about the different blood cells. You have both red and white blood cells, okay? So here you have the monocyte, which is a red blood cell, eosinophil, basophil, okay? And then you also have lymphocytes and neutrophil, okay, which are part of your white blood cells. And that concludes this presentation. See you in the next one.